How are you, Emma?
I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit of a zombie today. I've had a very intense week. So I'm excited to nap later this afternoon. I'm not good. It's been one of those days, but I'm happy to be here. It's been too long.
Yeah, I can relate to you. Yesterday, I said my brains were mashed potatoes.
Mashed potato brains?
Yeah.
It's my favorite kind of brain.
Yeah. I was like, I have no other way to describe what it is that I'm feeling. I was just disassociating in the complete stress of it all. I love that. All right, G-Rex, do you want to do intro?
I will. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready? You ready?
Next one left.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Today we have an amazing guest. We have Emma G. And I'm so excited to have you here.
Welcome, Emma.
Wonderful to be back. So I'm back officially on air with you ladies, but also just back seeing your beautiful faces. That's what a way to spend a Saturday.
I know, right? Better than being outside. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah,
So
much. It's just cold.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Emma, you said you've had a rough week. Anything you want to?
Well, okay. I'm using the word rough very objectively, I'll be honest. When I say rough, I mean, it's just been an emotionally charged week. You know, as somebody who's like moved to this country doing music, and, you know, my whole mission was to make music with a message and to help touch people's lives and help empower and whatever that has evolved in many ways. And this week has been the manifestation of one such evolution where, because I'm so focused on mental and emotional health, I have now been instated as the stress management coordinator for a volatile workplace or volatile country workplace. So that sounds really trivial, and I'm probably naming completely the wrong thing, but working with NGO workers and reporters who are going over to volatile or dangerous countries to, you know, do humanitarian work or just report on what's going on in places like Somalia or Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just been it's been a lot, you know, managing personalities, managing stress levels, working through them with, you know, different stress management techniques, which of course all relate back to music, songwriting and singing, meditation, breathing, body placement and things like that. So it's been a lot. And then that's been during the day, followed up by, you know, coaching clients and then gigging in the evening. I just need some, you know, need a rest day, a self-care day, shall we say.
Yeah, that was what I was about to ask, is having that as your day-to-day, like, how are you taking care of yourself?
Well, a lot of the same sort of practices that I talk about when I'm teaching. It's, you know, very much rooted in getting enough rest, feeding yourself nutritious, delicious foods, but also just sleeping and meditation and stretching. Oh my gosh, stretching is so important as vocalists, but just as humans, you know, like I think it's really easy for us to forget the emotional, mental, and physical are so closely aligned. And of course, our spiritual selves as well, that, you know, when we don't take time to look after our bodies, we just kind of tend to not do well.
Yeah. And that, you know, that kind of goes back to like the cortisol too, right? Like it just sticks down in your belly. And if you're not, you know, doing something to like move your body or laugh or get your endorphins going, you know, it can hurt your physical well-being as well as your mental well-being. So like even being as cold as hell as it is up here, like if I can't go outside, I'm just going to go up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times. Even if my arthritis is really bothering me, it's just getting my heart rate up enough to, you know, kind of relieve some of that stress. Or I'll go and do the 3x2 piece of the sidewalk that I can actually shovel without having to use a snowblower. So
it's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I've been really leaning into yoga to start off my days as well. It has been really helpful to just get the, you know, the oxygen flowing and activate the muscles a little bit. But it's important. We just forget. I think it's really, it's imperative that, especially living in big cities, we take that time to step away.
And even in the country, right? Like I live in, the rural part of upstate New York. So, just making sure that I'm taking care of that part of me, right? I'm all about nature, but I am not going to go outside if it's 10 degrees. It's not gonna happen.
I forgot that you're in upstate New York. I spent a week, just a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks actually, in Lake George in upstate New York, and fell in love with the place, except when it got cold. Dude, it was cold.
Yeah.
No, nope. You can keep that.
Yeah. I will take it over like 292 days of super hot weather. So I'm fine with that.
I was going to say 292. Yeah, Florida.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're saying you're not coming back.
I'm not. No. Well, maybe just for one event, but that's it.
Yeah. So Emma, how did you find therapy in music? When did that start for you?
When did I find therapy in music? I think it was something that's like, there's no simple answer to that question. I think as a young child, I started turning to music and songwriting as tools to kind of just communicate my thoughts and feelings at a young age, because I don't know if your listeners know anything about my story, but by the time I was 10, I'd already had 10 brain surgeries. And so that was something that was really hard to communicate about to my friends and family. How many people do you know who've had one brain surgery, let alone 10? And so, the additional ramifications of those surgeries, brain damage or, isolation or being called every name under the sun, was really difficult to sort of figure out how to overcome as a young person. So music helped me to at least find the vocabulary to explain and express myself. But then, as I became a teenager and continued to live life and experience all the things that young women endure, unfortunately, all too often, it just continued to serve as my voice and my opportunity to tell the world, oh, this shit's happening. And it's horrible and hard, and I don't know what to do about it. But at that point in my life, I was very much rooted in this place of, I need to try to at least express that, or at least try to talk about it, or at least try to help people understand or make people understand what was going on. It didn't yet click that the answer was in the question. And so to be able to then turn around and say, oh, I can express myself, but actually in this self-expression, I can actually come to my own conclusions about how to overcome. That didn't happen until much later. I had moved to Auckland, or Auckland, as Americans say, moved to Auckland in 2011 and started a hard rock band called Static Era with one of my dear friends, Chris Young, who used to play guitar for a rock band that I was in love with called Tadpole. And he was like, well, why don't we start a band? And I was like, okay, let's do that. Touch wood. Oh my gosh, is this actually happening? But because he was older than me and had experience in music for so much longer than I had, he, pointed out to me, hey, Emma, there's some really great material here, but what would it look like to actually create more of a positive spin on this? So I think it was at that point that I kind of coined the whole philosophy of, okay, life can be shit, but it's our job to take the shit, turn it into fertilizer and plant a garden. And that was done. Okay, it's fine for us to look at the crap and feel the feelings and feel the hurt and be sad and depressed and overwhelmed. But if we took a step outside of our ego for a minute and looked at, okay, so what can we do from here? How can we grow from here? What are the silver linings here? Then, maybe there's some opportunity for us to actually grow and become happier, healthier human beings. And that was, 2012, 2013 to, 2024, baby. And I'm all about that. And it's important for us to recognize the enemy, recognize the depression or the anxiety or the overwhelm, but then also give ourselves permission to like go, well, okay, but I'm the writer of my own song. So how can I cognitively shift this into something that makes me feel empowered, strong, motivated, positive? Insert other adjective here.
Yeah. Do you have any, I guess, maybe advice or helpful tips to people who are looking to take their shit and turn it into a garden?
I do. And give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, you see my pajama pants.
Okay, I got mine on too.
All of that advice is in this book. It's my latest interactive workbook. It's based on my last TEDx talk, which is called From Pain to Playlist, Turning Struggles into Song. It's full of tips and tricks that, people can use when it comes to, cognitively reframing disempowering thoughts or ideas into something positive. I will tell you from the jump, and I was showing this to a friend of mine last night, and he was most fascinated by this because one of the things, he looked at one of the pages, he's like, imagine depression was a person and write a song to them or write a letter to them. What does that even mean? And I was like, well, we think about it. When we're feeling in our gunk, when we're feeling in our feelings, it's easy for us to continue that, mouth wheel of continued overwhelm, continued stress, continued dark thoughts. If we give ourselves permission to step outside of our ego again, take a more holistic look at the situation, and instead of lashing out at our parents, at our partners, husbands, wives, to talk about oh, I'm depressed, why aren't you helping me? Why don't we actually attack the feeling? Because that's the actual enemy here. Not enemy. You can turn our enemies into friends, but that's what we're actually trying to manage here. So what would you say? And of course, a number of my songs are examples of how I've turned my emotions into humans that I've been like, screw you, I'm dumping you now.
Yes.
Our relationship is over. Close the door on your way out. Goodbye, depression. Don't call me, I won't call you.
That hit hard. Right? As you said that, I thought, holy shit. Yeah, what would I say to that emotion, right? Fuck. That's good. That's good. I need the book. I need to write it down. I need to go through the motions. Man, that hit.
Yeah, I could have used that book, when I was still in my fog, before, Christmas Day 2022. I could have used that, right? We were just talking about what did I do to help myself? Well, one of the things I couldn't do is I couldn't find my voice or couldn't find my footing. Your book will help people to find their voice and find their footing. One question that, Dirty Skittles always asks me is, what would you have done different? Well, I would have opened up my fucking mouth a lot sooner. But, I just couldn't because I didn't have those tools. I have those tools now. And your book is going to be a huge tool for people out there that are going through something similar.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. But I also want to encourage you to have grace with yourself because it's easy for us to say I should have. I'm a big believer in stopping shooting on yourself. We really need to stop shooting on ourselves because if we continue to have a narrative of I should have done that, okay, but because you didn't, these other things happened, which have now contributed to the beautiful aspects of your personality and your resilience and your strength. You know what I mean? And even still, opening your mouth and saying something in the moment might have actually been worse. You don't know. Everything happens, I think, in its divine time. But to take things, at least, I'm a big believer in it. Maybe not even opening your mouth so much to the world, but at least taking the time to understand yourself, because that's where the shoulds kind of fall away. The issue, I think, a lot of the time, especially in 2024, in a time when we're so distracted and overwhelmed by the news and social media and everything else that's going on around in the world, especially at the moment, is that we don't take time to at least open our minds to ourselves, and take the time to understand our own thoughts and feelings. And that can be incredibly powerful when it comes to overcoming some struggles. Like a song that I released last year called Barbed Wire. It won a Telly Award for the music video category last year. And this year it's up for some Whammies here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. But the song, I mean, I'm 35 now. I wrote the song just after my 15th birthday. It took me 20 years. I could have released it and put it out to the world when I was 15. But in all honesty, if I had, I think there's every possibility that it would have opened up a can of worms that I was not equipped to actually deal with. Because, you know, the song is about sexual abuse, and that's a really scary topic to dive into when you're 15. But at least I had something to help me understand it.
Huge.
I have goosebumps.
It's huge.
It's so huge. And like, you're giving people the tools that they need to get past some of the worst shit that's going on in their heads right now. You know, a lot of times people don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to express what's going on inside them. When I was talking to Dirty Skittles earlier, like, on the outside, I look perfectly fine. Like, nothing could touch me. But on the inside, like, I was killing myself, right? I was talking bad about myself. I just couldn't, I just wanted to be done. I'm so thankful that, you know, there was a guardian angel. 988 was available, that my wife was home. And then I was in therapy the very next day. But like, you know, books like your book and your music, that helps people, right? Like, on the worst day of their life. Right? Music is, to me, is a healer.
Absolutely.
So is laughter.
Absolutely.
And inappropriate jokes.
Yeah.
Best kind.
Depending on where you're at, like, depends on the joke, I think. So some jokes, you need to pick your audience. But yes, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. I mean, kind of going back to what you said, I mean, yeah, you had something to help you get through that. And I think that's key. I mean, I wish, you know, my childhood wasn't the best either, but, and I think, I don't remember the exact age that I was able to identify what was happening, but it wasn't enough. Even though I knew what was going on was wrong, I didn't have anything to relate it back to, right? Like, there wasn't any music that I could think of in like the 90s that I could say, oh, that is exactly what's happening here. You know, so almost some, like myself, I would imagine there's other people who feel alone when you're going through that at a young age, not having a name to put to it. So I think just the fact that you even shared that there is a song out there like that will help, right? Because at times when you don't have the words to put to a feeling or an emotion or, you know, whatever's happening to you, music has always worked for me. Like, I will love a song to death because it has identified a feeling I have, and in a way I don't think I could ever have put words to. So I think that's huge.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit, Skittles, because I think, yes, people feel that way. But, you know, because I was the same way. I've been writing and making up songs since I was 3. I'm not normal. I get that. But I think when I kept making up songs, so on and so forth. But I often, same thing as you, would turn to other people's music to try and make sense of my own thoughts and feelings. You know, so like listening to Iron Maiden, listening to Britney Spears, the Spice Girls, Enigma. But I woke up one day and realized these are someone else's words. This is someone else's experience. This isn't actually my narrative. So what would it look like for me to write my own narrative? Right? Like, if these guys can do it, I'm smart. I sing. I know how to write. I know how to speak, use words. So what does it look like to be able to use my own verbiage and my own lyric, and to take that one step further to look at, finding those words? You would be amazed at how music affects our brain in a way that helps us access those vocabularies that we don't often think we have. And I will tell you this because I ran some experiments when I was teaching at a university back in New Zealand. A lot of our learners were second chance learners, had been incarcerated or dropped out of school early or whatever. were told their entire lives that they were not intelligent human beings. They did not want to write essays at all. The idea made them freeze. They closed off. They didn't know what to say, how to say it, whatever. So I'm somebody that's like, I don't even look at the box. I think it's so outside the box that it doesn't exist for me. So I got these students to rap their research papers and to, like sing or write lyrical songs about Bob Marley or about whoever, Tupac. And I tell you, the minute they were able to sing or rap their research, you would not believe the vocabulary that came out of them. And it's the same thing for the songwriting clients that I work with. The amount of inspiration that comes because, oh, shoot, I actually have this opportunity to sing what I'm feeling. It's a game changer.
Yeah. Do you work with all different age brackets and groups?
Generally, the youngest I work with, actually, I'm up until recently was 13, but I recently worked with a 10-year-old. She was about to turn 11. And just before her 11th birthday, she wrote and recorded her first song called Scars, about recognizing and honoring the beauty in our emotional and physical scars. So yeah, that's generally the youngest I'll work with. But the oldest, up through adults, my happy place is generally teenagers though.
Yeah. Very interesting. I have so many questions and I don't know if you can share them, but like, what does that look like? Like, how do you start to open that door for them and get them comfortable with writing down what they're feeling?
Well, it doesn't often start with them writing down things. We often have conversations. I'm very open and transparent when I work with teenagers in particular, because one of the things I've really realized about the young people I work with is that they're all dying to be heard. They just don't feel listened to or respected when they're being listened to. And so you see it all the time. Kids end up yelling or cussing as a way to try and like shock people into hearing them. Or that if that doesn't work, that manifests into physical expressions of their frustration. And if that doesn't work, then that can turn into crime and all kinds of other really negative, unserving things. But what I do from the jump when I'm working with young people is first establishing the fact that I'm not their teacher. I'm not even really, their elder. I'm their big sister, their coach, their mentor, their friend. And thus, when we're working together, everything we do together is safe space. And then I open up, I talk about, the boundaries that I have with languaging. There are none. But I also tell the kids, like, if you're going to cuss, make sure you use your cuss intelligently. Because I know that you are intelligent enough to use other words to explain yourself. But if the only word you can use is a cuss word, cool, at least rhyme it. And 9 times out of 10, I think in the last 4 years since I've been doing this specific work, I've had one person cuss.
Wow, you should work with me.
I literally was like, what would my song sound like? It's just like one long word. No, that's a joke.
But when you empower them to be like, oh, I'm smart enough, I can use my words properly. Okay, cool. I'll step up. Emma believes in me. I need to believe in myself. And then, we just have a conversation to start off with. And so during that conversation, I'll open up a Google Drive document that is open for them to see at the same time because, open communication is really important to me. And then I'll take notes of the conversation when they see it as I'm writing it down. And then from those notes, we identify key themes, key phrases, key words, and then take that down and write, develop that into a song.
I mean, it's really beautiful, to be honest with you. Just hearing you say that, I'm like, shit. That, like you said, it challenges what I thought could ever be possible, right?
Yeah.
So I think
a lot of people, oh, that's different. And I'm like, well, that's good.
But it makes
Gen Z is different.
Yeah. Like, I'm curious now. I think I'm going to start looking at people like, I wonder what their song sounds like. It's not, I don't know. It's just really pretty. It's beautiful.
I think that it's, I wish that, I'd had that tool, when I was growing up, right? Because I'm a boomer. I'm not sad to say that. But, I went through a lot of shit as a kid. And man, if I could have put my words to music, I'd probably be a billionaire. But like, it would have probably helped me deal with a lot of the stuff I was going through too. And that's the beauty of what you do, is that you help these kids feel better about themselves and about the world that's going on around us, because the world's just not a pretty place right now.
It's definitely challenging in many ways, but I want to challenge you though, G-Rex, because as much as like you talk about, you know, what the things you needed as a teenager or as a child, it's not too late. You're still growing. Even as a boomer, you're still growing. You're still like, you're not dead yet. You're still evolving as a human being. So what would it look like, you know, after our conversation today, what would it look like for you to think back to your 5-year-old self, your 7-year-old self, your 10-year-old self, your 15-year-old self, and write a song to them as a woman now in 2024?
I'm going to write that song and then I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to send it to
I
you.
would love to hear that.
You and Dirty Skittles.
Nice. I would love that. No, and I ran that kind of exercise recently. Not recently, last April. There's a women's conference here that specifically works with unhoused women and pregnant unhoused women as well. And that's the exercise we did. We wrote a song. Each woman who was in the workshop with me wrote a song to themselves at the time that they first realized that they were traumatized. So for many of them, they were like 14 to 17 years old was when their first trauma occurred. So they ended up writing a song to that 14, 17-year-old self. And it was powerful. It was, you know, we had women in tears sharing their songs. And then I, you know, took my guitar and actually sang the songs back to them. And it was really beautiful, you know, because again, just music helps us tap into a part of ourselves that it's not that we don't know that it exists or that it's there. We just have lost touch with our abilities to access it.
So interesting.
I love this.
It's so interesting because it's always, I mean, for me, it's one thing to, you know, be brave enough to share that, right? And to like kind of, because I mean, for me, it's like you're opening your soul. Like that's how I'm imagining it, right? Like these are words that you either never really thought to write down, and then you finally write it down, but then to go that extra mile and to hear somebody singing it back to you, like, holy shit. Like I would be like, whoa. I gotta sit back here for a minute.
I mean, and that's always an Emma G melody, right? Like, so I just, you know, one of my favorite pieces of songwriting advice was from one of the Berkeley professors, Pat Patterson, who says, you know, a well-written song can be adapted to any melody, any genre. So, you know, I can just pull something out of my butt and it's going to be fine, you know, but that's the Emma G song, as opposed to like your song, Skittles, is going to sound very different to G-Rex's song. G-Rex's song's going to sound very different to her wife's song, you know, whatever it is. But the important thing is just being able to at least like get it out of your head and onto paper. And, you know, again, look at it cognitively in different narratives, you know, and again, all of those are in my book, but, you know, and be able to sort of figure out how to make sense of it all in a way that actually serves your soul as opposed to what you think other people want to hear.
Yeah. Geesh.
I know.
This is going to be a deep one for me. I'm going to be thinking about this episode for a hot minute.
Oh, yeah. If you want to surface level, this was not the conversation to have.
No, I love this stuff. I love learning and I love things that I would call different, meaning like anything outside of what I could think of on my own. So I will just sit and like literally think about this for days and like love every second of it because it's different and it's something that I wouldn't have come to on my own, you know? So this is very cool for me. Completely selfish. Sorry, G-Rex.
No. I'm like totally like, I'm digging this. I'm getting your book. I'm going to write my song. I'm going to send it to Emma G and I'm going to send it to Dirty Skittles. Probably going to laugh at myself a little bit, but like it's eye-opening because like maybe if those words were played back to me in somebody else's voice, I might understand them a little bit better, right?
Oh, interesting.
Like why I had that emotion, what was happening at that time in my life. And there's times during, you know, when I was before I was into my teens, in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, and even right now, you know, in my 60s, Like there's just shit that happens that if I could put it to a song, I don't know, it might resonate different with me than if I'm just reading it on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, because to touch on what she just said, when they hear their song back to them, is there anything like that? Like, I never thought of wondering if I would think of it differently if I heard somebody else saying it back to me. Do they feel, I mean, I don't know if you know, but it's like, how do they feel afterwards?
I don't think it's I mean, sure. Okay. So hearing it back to them, I think makes it more real.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily hearing it back from me to them. It could be them recording it themselves and then hearing it back. I think the aha moments generally come from that permission that we give ourselves to actually live in that moment. What I mean by that is, to your point, G-Rex, when we write things down, that can be incredibly powerful. The way that I look at songwriting, I've kind of stolen this phrase a little bit from another keynote speaker that I was speaking at an event for a year or two ago. And he had said something along the lines of, to meditate is, to pray is to talk to God, and to meditate is to hear that conversation, or to pray is to talk to God, to meditate is to hear what God has to say back to you. The way that I look at songwriting is the manifestation of that conversation. So when you allow yourself to sit in that moment, sit in those feelings, sit in those potential solutions, and actually write down into song whatever's going on for you, how is that going to serve you in the moment is going to be very different to how the song serves you when you listen back to it. And that's going to be very different to how you listen back to it in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. I'll give you an example. My song, Be Brave, I wrote that in the middle of nowhere of Connecticut when I was working as the outdoor science education teacher at as outdoor science education school. And it was one piano in the entire place. There were no other instruments, just a piano. And I decided I was moving to Washington, D.C. after Connecticut. And that felt right to me, that I knew that was what Source was leading me to do. But I was petrified. I hadn't yet realized I was petrified, but I was petrified. Keep in mind, I'm from New Zealand. There are 4 sheep to every human, 3 cows to every human. It's a small country, population 5 million. I was moving to the nation's capital in arguably the most powerful country in the world. Okay. That was a lot for me to process. So I sat down at the piano. I got into my zone, my prayer zone, which is songwriting, and I just started playing piano, whatever came. And then these words just came to me, whether it's, and in my mind, those words are messages from God. So I wrote this song, Be Brave. And I tell you, that song served me so well in my move to Washington, D.C. That song served me so well in March of 2020. That song served me so well when I went on my first US tour. That song served me so well when I ended things with my abusive ex. That song served me so, has continued, but the meaning of that serving has changed and evolved over the years. But the lyrics haven't changed. I've changed. I've grown. And the song has just continued to evolve with me because it's mine.
It's really pretty.
I love this. I love this. Oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm going to write my song.
Yeah, you are. Write your song, baby.
I love that. So where can our listeners find your book? Is it on Amazon or?
It is on Amazon. If you look up just Emma G on Amazon Books, there is also a link. Well, is there? I will be setting up. I don't think it is. I will set up a link on my website to all of my books. This is my first interactive workbook, but my 3rd technical book, my 3rd actual book. Sounds like a chicken. My 3rd actual book is going to be coming out in May, just in time for my US tour kicks off in July in partnership with the Hard Rock Cafe, which I'm very excited about. I'll be running youth empowerment through songwriting workshops around the country, which will culminate in performances with the young people at Hard Rocks around the country. So I'm really excited about that. But it's all on Amazon, but people can, the best way really to stay in touch and update it is to head to my website, emmagmusic.com, and sign up for my newsletter so that I update you as things progress.
I love this. Thank you so much, Emma. This has been wonderful, honestly. I love this.
Like you open my eyes, you open my ears. I'm so excited about this. You are fantastic. You're badass.
Takes one to know one.
Oh, yeah.
Takes two to know one. Thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. I know this, it feels like a lot to a lot of people, because when I first moved here, I was just Emma G, the musician, the singer-songwriter, and things have very much evolved. But, this is the hard work.
I love this.
I love it.
I love this. You're fantastic. I'm so excited to get this out for you. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys. It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.